What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are all having an absolutely fantastic day. I know I am. If you are, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, you'll get pregnant. Yeah, that's right. The number one rule is don't get anyone pregnant, but if you don't press the like button, you're gonna have a kid of your own. Anyways, guys, what's going on? I've got a story time today about arguably the craziest thing I've ever heard of somebody doing. Just a real savage story that I heard from a homeless man in a 7-Eleven. Your typical story time. And by typical, I mean not super typical, okay? It's not every day that just any homeless dude in a grocery store or a corner store starts telling you his life story. But regardless, the story he told me was pretty entertaining, so I figured I'd make a video on it because homeboy actually thought he was living in a Grand Theft Auto game back in the 80s. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So this actually happened about a year ago. I was on a road trip down to LA for the weekend, and we had to stop and get gas because surprisingly most cars can't drive from Las Vegas to LA on a single tank. So we stopped to get gas, and a couple of the people that I with had to use the bathroom, so I was like, whatever, I'll go inside and get a drink. So we're in the middle of California, like the desert side, not the nice side. The type of California where when somebody's like, oh, I'm from there, you say, oh, so you get all the negatives of California without any of the good stuff. And I'm standing there by the fridge trying to decide what I want to drink, and this homeless dude is just standing there behind me staring at me. And I'm not really sure what he's looking at. I'm not really sure if he wants to talk to me, but he's just staring at me. So after a bit, I turn and just look at him, and not even in a weird way, just a very, hey man, what's up? Do you want to talk to me if you want to talk to me type of way? And he looks at me and he says, yo, how's your day going? I'm like, good. So I'm having a conversation with this random homeless dude in the middle of this corner store, and we're just talking about how our days are going. He asks me where I'm going. I'm saying we're road tripping to LA, and he's like, yeah, that's crazy. I got arrested when I was 7. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I guess that's really neat. That's a weird opening line, oh, what are you doing here? You're road tripping to LA? That's sick. Yeah, I got arrested when I was a child. And you're like, what? Oh, okay. Well, good for you, man. I'm glad things worked out. Obviously, you ended up getting out. And he starts saying, yeah, when I was 7, I had to go to juvie, and I had a court case because I ran from the cops. And I'm like, wait, hold on. My friends are still in the bathroom. So I look at him and I go, all right, tell me the story. What happened when you were 7? And he starts smiling the way that somebody who really wanted an excuse to tell this story does. And he says, all right, so basically when I was a boy, and he starts telling me his life story. I'm gonna trim out most of the boring bits, because it's not super important, but he starts telling me his life story. And by the time he's wrapping up the life story and gets to finally being 7 years old, my friends are out of the bathroom and they're gathering around me because obviously I'm looking at this homeless dude very intensely because I want to hear the story. So he's got a whole crowd around him of 4 people now, and he starts telling us about how when he was 7, he was a bit of a pudgy kid. He was telling us, he was like, yeah, I was a little fatty, and my mom had taken me to this buffet across town. And obviously, I love the buffet because when you're a chubby kid, there's nothing better than unlimited food. That's literally the main thing that you want when you're a chubby little kid is a bunch of food. So they went to the buffet, and he had a great time. And he loved the buffet so much that he wanted to go back the next day. But obviously, his mom's like, no, we're not going to go to the buffet twice, it's expensive, it costs a lot of money, and his family was pretty poor growing up, so he's like, no, you can't go to the buffet. So he decides, that he doesn't like that word, the word no. He doesn't really want to listen to it. His mom said no going to the buffet, but he doesn't care. So his mom goes to take a nap later in the day, and he's just being a 7-year-old self on a Saturday morning. His mom's asleep at 11 a.m. and he's like, well, I'm going to go to the buffet, and my mom isn't awake to stop me. So even though she said no, it doesn't really matter, at all, because she can't stop me if she's asleep. So he lived in this tiny town where there was basically only one road. So he decides that he's just gonna drive himself to the buffet. But the way this town is located is there's one main road, but it's about 20 minutes away from the big city. So he starts driving his mom's car as a 7-year-old, can't really see over, can barely touch the gas pedals, and he just starts driving down the main road in his town. And obviously, it's obvious to everybody that there's not an adult driving the car. So the one cop in his town pulls him over, and somehow the kid gets to the side of the road, and the cop walks up to the side of the car, looks in the window, knocks, and tells the kid to unlock the door. And for whatever reason, this kid, as a 7-year-old, is terrified now because he doesn't want to get in trouble. His mom had always told him, if the police ever pull you over, that means you're in trouble, or she would be like, I'll call the police if you're being a bad boy. And obviously, as a 7-year-old, he knows stealing his mom's car was not the brightest idea he's ever had. Like, it's not the most big brain idea as a 7-year-old to commit a felony. That's just usually not the best. So he's terrified, and the cop probably wouldn't have done anything. But like I said, they're only like 20, 30 minutes away from a big town. So what the kid decides to do when the cop tells him to unlock the door is, well, I'm gonna get in trouble either way. And little 7-year-old him decides to put his head to the point where he can no longer see over the dashboard and slam the gas and just go flying down the road. So obviously now this child is in a police chase, but he's even more scared now because there's sirens behind him and a cop is chasing him. So after 20 minutes of just slamming on the gas, little 7-year-old manages to avoid making any accidents, which is honestly the most surprising part of this story. And like I said, his family was not like in a very good financial situation, so they didn't have a ton of gas. So he's nearing the big city, and there's like 3 cop cars waiting for him on the road into the big city. Like, this tiny cop had called ahead and been like, look, I've got a 7-year-old on a joyride, which has got to be the most entertaining cop call of all time. Like, you're used to just depressing calls of like, yes, I have another child that has been kidnapped by a clown let loose on this town that is single-handedly going to destroy America. And then one comes through and it's like, yeah, I've got a 7-year-old that thinks he's in a Need for Speed movie. I need backup stats. So obviously this kid gets into town and there's a little roadblock. So the kid finally comes to a stop and the officers like run up, break the driver's side window, get glass all over the place. And this is back in the day, so it's not like the safety glass we have now. He shows us that he's got like a scar on his nose from where one of the pieces of glass cut him. Take the keys out of the ignition and like yank the kid out of the car. And we're like, what happened? Are you still scared? He's like, obviously I'm scared. I'm in a city I'm not from with like one person that kind of knows me because it was just the cop from his small town, and they're all yelling at me, asking me like what distraction I caused. And obviously I know I'm gonna get in trouble because my mom doesn't even know that I'm gone. So they're trying to figure out what to do with the car. So the cop from my town calls the tow truck from my town, and they come and tow the car back to town. So like a 20-minute tow ride. They take me to the house and knock on the door, and the best part is his mom was still asleep, bro. Like, the mom was still napping, which, I mean, does not bode very well for your momming skills, all right? I'm not trying to call anybody out, but if your 7-year-old could go on like a 25-minute joyride in your car without you noticing, then I think you might want to work on your supervision skills, bro. That poor mom. Like, imagine how tired you have to be to just like pass out. You wake up with cops banging on your door because your kid decided to steal your car and go on a joyride because he wanted a buffet. Like, bruh, childhood obesity is bad if you're committing felonies to go to the buffet, all right? That's not something you should be insanely proud of. Yeah, that's right. The first crime I ever committed was just for some Twinkies. My caloric intake is high and my diabetes' chances are even higher. But you know what? I don't care because I just needed to do what I needed to do. So, we asked him how much trouble he got into, and he said tons. He was grounded basically until he was like 10 because remember that his mom now had to pay for a tow truck to bring the car back, a 20-minute tow ride, not to mention the talk of the town because they lived in a small town was this kid. But, there is positives because I guess he was basically the coolest kid in school forever because obviously you would be, you know what I mean? Like, even in high school, dude, if you're from a small town and you're known as the 7-year-old who's a savage out there committing felonies, that's some pretty solid street cred. I don't really know if it helped him out a bunch because he was homeless in California 30 years later, but regardless, I hope the dude had a good day, and, all things considered, it's not that bad. Like, it's a pretty good story, and life's kind of all about just getting stories, you gotta live that swagged out life. Regardless, we were so entertained by the story that we ended up going into, like, the McDonald's that was connected, got him some lunch, and then heard more about his life story, and he told us some pretty crazy stuff. So if you guys like this series and you want to hear more about this dude's life, I did write down the best parts, and if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments section down below if you vibing with it. But yeah, that's the story of how a 7-year-old really ended up taking his mom's car on a joyride, getting in a high-speed chase, eventually getting caught by a police roadblock, and then for whatever reason, his mom was still sleeping and had to wake up to cops banging on the door saying, your son is a moron, which is a pretty solid way to wake up if you're a mom. But on that note, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of the video. And if you're new, subscribe with notifications on. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but my videos have been doing like way worse than normal, and they're not hitting new people. So if you could send this to a friend to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. Today's notification shout out goes to the always fantastic and consistently watching the videos Owen Mr. 49. Big thank you for having on those notifications. If you want a notification shout out, turn on the notifications, send a screenshot to my Instagram at Scrubby. And on that note, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Have yourselves an incredible day. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.